A cancer cell takes in far more glucose than a normal cell.
The oncologist told me it's too late. We have nothing to do for you. You already dead. I find the solution, autophagy, and who spoke about autophagy? Of course, the Nobel Prize 2016.
You do have that chance, at least in these 18 people, to double your survival. What is the same thing about all cancers? And that it really comes down to the mitochondrial dysfunction or damage. So I think the two most approachable things people can do are.
In this episode, I had the opportunity to talk with Derek Lee, who's a researcher from the Seyfried lab located in Boston College, which focuses mainly on the metabolic treatment for chronic diseases, just like cancer. So this is not basic information that mainstream media gives you. And if you're liking those free videos, the podcasts, the podcuts, please subscribe to the channel. This is very important for you to be getting the videos, getting the information, which is pretty valuable. So let's go to the podcast. How is the mitochondria damaged itself? You said it was a dysfunction of oxphos, but how is that on the big picture? How do we, within habits, within things that we do every single day, makes that oxphos more inefficient and therefore cellular respiration not working as properly, therefore stimulating fermentation?
Yeah, so this kind of goes into the oncogenic paradox of how can so many different things, how many different insults to the cell result in cancer? So a lot of different things can affect how a cell makes energy. It can be chronic inflammation, which restricts the amount of oxygen coming into the cell, or really the oxygen in the environment. It can be viral infection. Viruses traffic to the mitochondria and can then disrupt that process. It can be things like I said, some inborn errors of metabolism can lower that efficiency, which can make those other environmental factors that I mentioned more likely to hit that tipping point of carcinogenesis. So it's a lot of different things, but I think it comes down to the restriction of oxygen over a sustained period of time. That's not too severe. And this goes back to the guy, Warburg, who originally proposed this hypothesis. He very strictly labeled it as a chronic but sublethal injury to the energy metabolism in a cell, right? Because if it's too transient, the cell will hang on for a little bit and it'll go back to doing its normal thing once the inflammation or whatever environmental insult is gone. And then it also has to be chronic rather than acute, because if it was an acute injury to the cell will just die. Our cells are dying all the time, right? So it has to be both sublethal and chronic, and that can lead to the damage in the mitochondria and then the compensatory fermentation that we always talk about.
Yeah, and so what are some things that can be done to prevent cancer itself?
Prevention's tough, and I think it is part of just living a more healthy lifestyle. Like right now, I think the chronic disease is very, very hot in the media. And I think that does contribute to the cancer problem. So I think if you fix what you're eating, because at the end of the day, the production of energy in a cell is a product of what you feed it and what else is and the different hormone signaling and all these other signaling pathways in the body. But at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to what you're putting into your body. So whether it's better foods and different types of foods, and that kind of goes into the different diet aspects that we talk about, as well as things like exercise, because exercise can stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, it can stimulate mitochondrial repair, and things like that. So I think the two most approachable things people can do are diet and exercise. And we say that because of the molecular mechanisms we understand that contribute to keeping that energy creation system healthy in a normal cell.
That's very interesting. One thing that I was seeing very often about too, I know these are the main factors. The United States has a obesity epidemic, diabetes epidemic, not just because of other environmental factors, but also because of this. People are stopping to move more, eating worse. Foods back in the day are not as nutritious today because of the soil depletion, our way of farming, and that disrupts the whole metabolism and maybe makes the cellular respiration more inefficient in a way, which can drive that compensatory fermentation. And I find it very interesting. Also about the fact that because so I live in Florida, so here's a pretty humid place. Also, it is a very big epidemic that mold is destroying a lot of people's lives and people do not know about. I just wanted to bring up that topic because it brings chronic inflammation. People have serious problems from it, have autoimmune diseases and other issues that maybe the root cause is just treating from that is not treated within the conventional way that we've been doing within the medical field. So I just wanted to bring up that part. It's a pretty interesting thing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm glad you brought up the diabetes and obesity issue, right? Because people are always like, okay, what are the top five risk factors for cancer, right? Everyone wants to know.
Mhm.
And I think when you realize what they are, it's kind of shocking, right? I think everyone in the world understands smoking is the prime risk factor of cancer, right? But fortunately, through public health initiatives, smoking is way down in the world, right? Okay, so nowadays that's not as much of an issue. Still a risk factor, but it's much less prevalent. Behind smoking, the biggest risk factors for cancer are obesity and type 2 diabetes, right? So if you're insulin insensitive and overweight, both of which cause chronic inflammation in one case, and in the other case, inhibits your ability to traffic glucose effectively around your body. Those are the two things that are pretty much nowadays, in terms of chronic disease epidemic, the biggest risk factors for cancer. So if you start from there, just saying those are the two biggest risk factors, again, outside of smoking, that I can control. It both of those feed into metabolism, especially in the case of type 2 diabetes. If we're talking about this issue with glucose usage, and that type 2 diabetes causes insulin insensitivity, which the prime role of insulin is to effectively traffic glucose around your body, it becomes a little more clear of why we're so focused on the metabolism issue. So I do always like to bring up to people like those are the two biggest risk factors. And I think once people understand that, I think the rest of it falls in line a little bit. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, it's not that it kills the bad bacteria, it's indiscriminate. It kills all the bacteria in the mouth. And take the gut microbiome for a while. We know better now. We don't want to kill all the bugs in the gut. That would be an antibiotic, for example.